Okay, so this is our second session for coaching. So as you can see, let me make it smaller. Let me pin myself first, pin, and then let me make it smaller. So as you can see, in our what we call tentative, we already start in last Friday, and then now is basically we start this is where your what we call Sukip centralized training actually start lah. So we start with the online coaching. When you see the coaching part here, all these in this like maroon color or whatever color is this will be online, will be covered online. Okay. So until Thursday, so this week until Thursday, and then we have a break, and then you will come to the URA around Monday. Okay. On Monday, in the morning, they're still online. Okay, still online, but then in the evening you need to go to the venue. I will meet you in the venue because I want to brief something lah about your physical face-to-face training. And then continue for Tuesday. In the morning we have online. The reason why I do it online here because I would like to record it. So if I go to the venue, then you can record, but it's a little bit difficult lah to bring here and there. But nevertheless, you will go to the venue anyway on the evening. Okay, so during this evening time, you will play based on the schedule that is given here lah. Games link here. Everybody have their own schedule lah about which they will play which lah. Okay, but for that I will brief during that time. And then chess exam is basically happening face to face. It's like a puzzle time where in the venue and you are required to solve something in a given period of time. So this is face to face. OTB on the board face to face, and followed by chess exam 2. And then on Friday in the morning, I will do online. But in the evening, you need to go for the face-to-face on the board game lah. Because what the purpose you come to URA from if you don't go to the face-to-face training. Okay, so you need to go at least go to the training venue. And then followed by the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and so on is repeating the same thing, but you can read lah. The commitment that I ask you is that for each day, starting this week is 2 hours only. 2 hours. But starting next week, when you come to the URA, you need to commit for at least 4 hours. At least 4 hours. 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. We will book the venue for the entire day, meaning that from 8 to 5. Okay, so that's team manager will do that lah. So the venue is booked for the whole day, but the commitment that I ask from you is only 4 hours. But if you want to stay, you want to stay there, then it's up to you, because I will put also there in the venue some reading material, some chess, whatever lah. So that's I will brief on Monday lah, next week. So this analysis question and answer here, meaning that I come to the venue, and then I sort of like not do like a deep analysis per person, but more or less I just go to this person and then I ask I will ask you what's the problem in your game and so on. But this is just like a casual lah, this analysis and question and A. The most important thing for this training part is this OTB, over the board, meaning that you need to play face to face with your opponent. This is the most important thing. The coaching part is important also because you need to come, you need to commit also, but this is online, so maybe it's not really much headache for all of you. Plus I will record it anyway, so but still you need to come, even though it's recorded. Think about this, if I give you a recording for this coaching, it's 2 hours, nobody will watch it. So it's much better for you to come during this live session and then just use the recording sort of like to refresh if you want to lah. It's not like you don't come to the live session and then you just waiting for the recording. That's not right lah, because 2 hours. Who want to watch the recording for 2 hours, right? But at least for the last session, it's like a commitment. You are selected by the UIA, and the SDC Sport Development Complex UIA also will spend some money on you to participate in the SUKIP. So at least you need to give some commitment lah here. Okay, and then as usual, you can read everything. Okay, as I said, the most important thing, this OTB game, the over the board game, because we want to simulate the actual training, actual play during the SUKIP. Playing online will totally different. Even though you think that okay, online is also the same as chess and so on, but the situation will be different. I mean, maybe some of you for like maybe like already like months or years never touched the real chess set. So this is time for you to reintroduce yourself with the chess, the actual chess set. So that's why I think this OTB game is the most important lah. All of this, the OTB part is the important part lah. And please remember, please bring the during this when you come to the physical venue later on, please bring the pen and maybe a paper, whatever, notebook lah, whatever, because you need to sort of like record the thing, record your game. For those of you Afifah, I think Afifah know lah, because Afifah is MSSM player. So you need to, for those who don't know, you need to what we call compulsory for you to write a notation, to write everything during the SUKIP. So if you don't know how to write, then you need to learn lah, because during SUKIP sometime the board doesn't have numbers, doesn't have coordinates, so you need to know lah. So please, if you don't know how to do that, please learn before you come here, because playing online, the computer did it for you, but when you do it physical, then you need to write yourself. So even that writing the notation also is the skill, because sometimes when people play, when you play online, you can focus on the game, but when you play over the board, while you need to write the notation, sometimes for some of you, they feel like they are disconnecting. It's something that is like a burden. When you try to write, then you cannot focus on the game, and somehow some people feeling like that. So that's why it's important for you to write the notation, and the notation later on you will upload on the Lichess, and then you as usual put in the games link like before lah, for me to analyze, so that I can have something to what we call, something to play through, and also check for coaching number 8 and coaching number 9. From coaching number 1 until coaching number 7 is more or less like I give a lecture. It's like a more or less passive, but yeah, if you want to ask something during the online session, then you can ask, you can interject me anytime lah. So during this online session from 1 until 7, if you have any question, you can interject me. Coaching number 8 is basically I'm using your game to what we call, to analyze lah, some not all. So that's why it's important for you to put your game in the games link, so that I know your game. Okay, and then coaching number 9 also like that, analyzing your own game. And then this is just like a casual, and so on. So enough for that. So I don't want to go for all this because this is basically the coaching session. The coaching session normally is 2 hours, 2 hours. So that's just intro, just intro for, I mean, to refresh you back what will happen during this centralized training. 3 weeks, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The commitment this week is 2 hours. Next week 4 hours. So that's the thing. So let's go straight to the chess. So as I said, this session, this coaching session for this SUKIP 2022, I will focus on the endgame. On the endgame. So in the previous lesson, you learn about the basic mate. You learn about how to mate with the queen, with the rook, with the bishop, two bishop, and also bishop and knight. And the most important thing that you need to know is this thing lah. Is this thing how to bowl? Wait, how to bowl? So this bowl. Okay, so the most important thing is queen and rook, how to win ni lah, basic mate. Because remember, even though some of you know how to play this, even though this is like a second nature for some of you, but you need to not only know how to mate, but to deliver it in minimal time, because endgame happen at the end of the game, so normally people are exhausted and the time trouble and so on. It's not sufficient only to know how to mate. It's also important to know how to mate in the given time lah. Let's say you have like 30 minutes and only like that, then not 30 seconds like that, so you need to know how to make that lah. So that is basic mate that we learned in the previous lesson lah. What we want to learn today is basically about something about something related about this basic mate. It's about Pawnless. Today we will learn about Pawnless endgame. Pawnless endgame. The endgame that doesn't have pawn. You might say that why we learn Pawnless endgame if let's say most of our game have pawn. The reason for that is you need to know the best, at least the basic first, and then only then we add a pawn later and so on. So for this session we learn about Pawnless endgame, so we go straight to the point. We go straight. Let me mute first. Let me mute because there are somebody ni. So for those of you that is not mute, please mute unless you want to ask something, then you can unmute. Okay, so we start with this. So this is we start with this what we call this is queen versus bishop. Okay, sometimes you see that what we call you get a queen but your opponent have the bishop. Okay, this is a fairly easy win lah. So this we can say is a easy win lah, easy win. But now what my focus now is that can you win in 30 seconds all of this lah. All the easy win, the basic mate, you need to try to win it in very quite fast lah, because of the time trouble and so on. So now the idea of winning this is that first you are black. Let's say you are black and then you play against your opponent. Your opponent have the bishop and the king. Without the bishop, then we learn in the last session. So this the idea how to play with this is just you just move the king first. Move the king, and then you just move the king first, because king is what we call the slower unit. So and then you also see that I move from what we call the to the square that is opposite color of this bishop. So that to avoid any pin or any fork or whatever lah. So it's much easier to play like that. Okay, and then let's say white play like this, and then you use what we call the method that you learn in the queen basic mate. Queen against the king is just basically make a what we call make a box like this lah, sort of like restrict the king from coming out. So the idea, you bring the king up. The idea to play with this, you bring the king up, and then later on you block with the you sort of like restrict the king with the queen, and then you move slowly and surely. You will go through what we call all this light square which is not covered by the bishop, and then you can deliver the mat. Okay, so that's the idea. So let's see how this idea is materialized. So you restrict the king with the queen, and then bishop come here, and then king d5. You can see the king go to the square that is not covered by the bishop. Okay, because this is the problem with the bishop. Bishop is a color blind. If you have a dark square bishop, this is what we call dark square bishop, then it's color blind to the light square lah. So it's very weak in light square. So the key to win this is basically just to exploit the light square. During the play, if you never practice this thing, is common that players try to check, and then without any plan. So you need to have plan. So the plan, when you play like this, you go to the light square lah. So we go like this, and then we just play with the queen, and then when the king goes, and then you exploit the light square, and then the bishop goes, and then you check, you go, and then king comes. So you can see the king, the movement of the king is the most important thing lah. Go here, go to the light square, and then at the end of the day, you can get mad lah. So this I will not go in detail. I mean, this is not really detail. This is just a basic, but at least you know the idea. The most important thing I want to teach here is not really about how to win, because this like easy win. It's just about the idea. You know the characteristic of the bishop is colorblind, so you just go to the other what we call other color than the bishop. Okay, so that's about bishop queen versus bishop. So this is easy win. Still easy win. So now let's go to the second let me open this thing. Okay, let me wait. View standard layout. Okay, so let me close this first. Yes. Okay, what is this? Okay, so now you have a queen. Now you have a queen. Let me check here because it's quite okay, so now you have a queen versus knight. This also easy win. Easy win. This also an easy win. But this you just need to be careful about the fork lah. Okay, because knight is a tricky piece. You need to be careful with the fork. It's much trickier than the bishop. For the bishop, it's easy to see the diagonal, but the knight is trickier lah. But the idea is still simple. In this case, you cannot just go to what we call to the light square. You need to also play in the dark square because the knight can fork here and there. So you need to be careful lah. So here, because for example, if you go blindly here, then you can just get like a fork and then you game draw lah. So the idea to play with this is just to be careful, and then as a bishop, you sort of like what we call move with your king and the queen in the concert and try to sort of like push the king to the corner. The idea is to push the king to the corner, and then you ni lah. So you go to the king h2, so to avoid any fork, and then king e6, and then king d4, go here. Okay, so just what we call just be careful lah, because most of us remember when you play in the quick play finish, for example like in the Sukit, this typically happen at the end of the game. So most of us, they want to go to the middle like this, right? So but with knight, you need to be careful. Here you get fork and so on lah. So you need to be careful lah. Be careful. That's all lah. Be careful, and then you bring the king up. So one of the peculiar thing about the knight is the knight, when the knight is only attack those color that is different than the what we call that its own color lah. For example, let's say the knight is on the dark square, it's only attack the square that is light. So if you want to make sure that your king and queen will not be forked at all, it's good idea to go to what we call to different color lah, because if you put your king and queen in the different color, then will never be forked lah. But anyway, because you need to push the king forward, like it or not, this king somehow will go to the light square anyway later on. So it just for to help when you are in time trouble, just go to the different color lah, the knight. And another thing about the peculiar thing about knight is that if your king is here, okay, one diagonal away from the knight, this is the position when the knight cannot give the check for at least 3 moves. Okay, so if you want to be safe against the knight, put the king in diagonal, one square diagonal for the knight, because the knight will take at least 4 moves to check, to be able to check this king. Okay, so that's one of the peculiar thing about the constellation of the king and knight. Okay, if you are in time trouble, then it's good to just move like this, diagonal to the knight, 1 square in between. Then you will know that the knight will not be able to fork to check in at least 3 moves later lah. Okay, king g3, and then go here, and then this just coming here. Just be careful only lah. And then you use king and queen slowly and surely you push it down lah. Okay, you can see as a bishop you get closer, and then when you get closer, eventually you will be able to force the king to go to the edge of the board. Okay, for example like this, you see when you get closer, it will force the king go to the edge of the board. Okay, so and then get closer. Okay, get closer, and then get closer. Okay, and finally you see the king at the edge of the board. So here king f6, you want to checkmate, and then you deal like this, and then king e6 check, and then king d6. And now as I said before, this constellation here, when you have like one square in between knight and king, at least knight will need to take 3 steps in order to give a check. So you know that the knight will never able to check this king for at least 3 moves. Okay, so now there are no more check. Mate on the e7 is threatened, and queen e7, the knight go to queen e7, and then you get this knight. You get the tempo lah, because now you want to trade the mate here on the yellow square, and the knight cover. So you play the tempo. And then you either the knight is lost or you get mated lah. So that is a fairly easy win lah for the queen. Okay, let's go to next. Okay, so this, I think we done with this. So let me close this. Let me open this first. Okay, let me open this thing. Okay, so now let's see. Okay, let's see what happened if you have queen versus knight and bishop. Okay, now it's not about easy win. It's about you need to know what you need to do lah. Okay, typically queen win against the bishop and knight. Okay, typically queen win against the bishop. Okay, I put general queen typically win against knight and bishop unless the defender can create a fortress, kubu. Okay, so let me put. Okay, so when you play against the knight and bishop, okay, and you have a queen, typically the game is winnable. I mean that the queen can win. Usually the winning is basically by forking and like that. But there are certain fortress. I mean there are only one fortress. So what you see in front of you here is the fortress, kubu. Fortress meaning that you cannot regardless you have advantage in material, you cannot sort of like penetrate into the fortress. So this is the only fortress for queen versus knight and bishop. So the bishop, this bishop protecting this knight, and then the king is in the corner lah, regardless what corner lah, but this is the fortress lah. The bishop must be here protecting the knight, and the king is here. Okay, the reason why this is fortress is because, as you can see, this is covered. Okay, this is covered, meaning that the king, in order to win against this bishop versus knight, the king must must sort of like cooperate with the queen in order to checkmate. The queen alone cannot checkmate this bishop versus knight. You need the help from the king. This constellation is a fortress is because the king is denied the access to this the fortress lah. And when the king access is denied, then the queen just can only able to give a check and so on only. Okay, so let's see how if let's say white is move. Let's say white move. White want to try to win. So you sort of like king goes to this thing, still cannot enter, and then just black can just check like that, and then king e6, and then bishop e8 like that, and it's just a fortress lah. You cannot enter, you cannot check, you cannot check, you cannot even check. Now you can check here, okay, for example you can check at the 8, but you can just go here lah. You can go here, and then you go there and then you still erecting the fortress. So this is the only fortress in when you play against if let's say suddenly, if let's say your game ended like this is the only fortress lah. Okay, so remember this fortress, this fortress, you have the bishop on the second rank or whatever, second rank for the black, or second rank if you are white, you just mirror lah. And the knight is here, he just here, not here, not here, not here, not here. Okay, it must be here, because in order to sort of like what we call to cover this square lah, this square. Okay, let's see what happened if you don't erect this fortress. So let's see this. So go here. Wait, takes time to load this thing. View. View stand layout. Okay. So now it's more like what we call more like in practice, in practical play. So now best is what we call white to move, and white, if you look here, white, this is pawn, so basically pawn going here, pawn want to queen. So as you can see, both the bishop and the knight cannot prevent black from queening. Okay, so the end result will be queen versus bishop and knight. So in this case, you sort of like, you know that the white is in the disadvantage because the queen will be appear shortly lah. But here now the white is to move. Okay, white is to move. Okay, so question, how white should play? You know the fortress, but how to react the fortress? Because if you make a wrong move, then you cannot make a fortress lah. So think for a while, how white can erect a fortress, because the white cannot prevent this pawn from queening. So where, because now the bishop also being attacked by the king, so where the bishop will go? To here, to here, to here, to here. This cannot lah, because you just eat lah. To here, to here, to here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. There are 6 place for the bishop to what we call to move, and then the resulting queen versus bishop and knight will be determined whether the white be able to create a fortress or not. Okay, so so here, if you make a mistake, then where you want to go? I mean, anyone here? Let me ask. Siapa dia? Dida. Where actually you will go?
I think for me, in this kind of position, I will prefer to go knight to e5, maybe.
Knight e5. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that is what typically human tend to do, because human, they try to go to central square, right? This central square. Dida want to go to here, central square. That is normal for the human. I mean, we psychologically, when you play chess, we want to control center and so on. So that's why we are going. Dida want to play here, but going to e5 here is a blunder, because you cannot erect the fortress. It seems that you can erect the fortress by going here and then putting the knight here. It seems that you can do that, but you cannot, because you see, why? Okay, bishop e5. Okay, let me remove all the what we call this thing. Okay, bishop e5, queen, for sure, queen. Okay, and then remember, knight is attack, so knight need to move. Okay, when knight move, then it's far from going to get here anyway. I mean, it cannot go to e5, because the fortress, the knight must be here, the bishop must be here. So that is basically the fortress. Other constellation is not a fortress. We will see why. So the knight move, and then the king go up, attack the bishop, and then bishop e5. So it seems like white want to create a fortress, but black just go in. As you can see here, there are barrier. Still, you can see there are barrier here, right? The king cannot enter, but this is not a fortress because the king can go here, can somehow go here, somehow go here lah, go here. Let me remove the color. So this is not a barrier. It's not really a barrier lah. So we see how the black will win. Okay. It seems like the barrier. So when you are facing with like this barrier, one way to break this barrier is to play Zhuang. Zhuang. For some of you, Zhuang mean Zhuang. What does it mean by Zhuang? Zhuang is a position. What is Zhuang? Zhuang is when you don't want to move, you are asked to move. In chess, you need to move, right? For example, if you are white, after black move, you need to move, regardless you want it or not. Zhuang happen when, for example, let's say your position is so optimal, it's already optimal, but then you are forced to move because it's your turn to move. That is Zhuang. You don't want to move, but you must move because of the rule of the game. Like this. In this case, you can see that the fortress is erected by the white. But by using Zhuang method, I mean, black can put white in Zhuang so that this fortress will be broken lah. So we see how Zhuang is used lah. Okay, King G8. Okay, because why? Because white still want to maintain the fortress. And then you have Queen D5, King F7, and Queen F7. Okay, so you can see the what you call this thing happen. Okay, and then King H8. Okay, King H8. Okay, still there are fortress here. The king cannot enter. The king cannot enter this place. In order to win, you need to enter with the king. But as I said before, this can you can use Zhuang to break this. Okay, you break this constellation. So how? Is basically you go to the King E4, meaning that you need to you need to sort of like white need to move anyway. So this is the what we call the position that, okay, if you look at the back here, this is if let's say white can maintain this position, then this position is draw. Okay, because you cannot enter, right? But in chess, if it's your turn, you need to move. So how to use Zhuang is that to make a tempo move. Okay, for example, you know that this is the best position for the white, so that so the king cannot enter. But we know this is not a fortress, meaning that you can break this by using Zhuang. How to break the thing is just to make a tempo move lah, King E4. So like it or not, white need to move lah. So you can move the king here, and then go there, and then and then you go back, and then King D6. Okay, as I said before, the king goes to the another way. King S7, and then check, and then check, and then you go here, and then go here. Okay, so as I said before, there are no fortress on this side, on this side. So the king can enter here. So that's why this constellation is not a fortress. So an H7, because if for example the king go here, then you allow if the king here go here, then you allow the black king to enter lah. So once the king enter, then ni lah, you cannot go here lah because the queen is there. So anyway, so king E7 and H7, and then Queen D5, and then King H8, King H8, and then King F7. So you get to break the Zhuang, and then NF6, and then Queen G5. Okay, Queen G5 here. So you can see now the position is what we call is lost, because now this bishop is what we call is attack, and then yeah, it's not a fortress. Okay, if the knight is here, it's a different story. If the knight is here, it's a different story. If the king is not there, the reason why it's lost is because the king assists the black queen to attack this bishop. Okay, so that's the reason why this is not the right move, because let me show one more time. Go here, go here, go here, go back, king f5, go there, and then queen d5, check, go here. You just go inside, slowly and surely go inside the what you call the camp of the white lah. Okay, so you want to break that, you cannot go there, you need to play another way around lah. You need to go to the like a circle, you need to go from here, from here, from here, and so on lah. So that's why you go like this, here, let's say here, okay, and then you check, go there, go there, and then in this case yeah, you go there and then you put that lah. So basically that is basically why the fortress cannot be erected. So how to play actually? So here, so the correct move is basically to play to bishop h4 lah. So this thing, okay, you go to bishop h4. The reason for that is that if you take the queen and then the knight go with the check, and then go to king e4, and then you just protect that, and then you can create a fortress. Okay, so let's say you check like this, and then king g8, go to king g8, king g8, and then you king e8, and then just go there, and then if you check somewhere, so it's just a fortress lah, just a fortress. Okay, if white black play a tempo move like this, just move like this, and the fortress is erected lah. You cannot enter lah, you cannot enter. So this is erected. So this is the only fortress if you have a queen against the bishop versus knight. Okay, so that is this part. Okay, so we done with the queen versus knight versus bishop. Okay, let's go to the next. So let me close this first. Let me can I close this thing? Wait, let me close this first. Yes. Wait, my computer is not so fast, so you need to bear with me about this. We need to transition to why this thing? Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so this is the knight part. Okay, let me go to this thing. Okay, so now we have done with the queen versus knight versus bishop. Now we will learn about queen versus bishop. So let D here. So this the verdict is that queen is typically win against bishop. Okay, they are only one fortress for this. So the one that you see in front of you is the fortress lah. So this is the fortress for queen versus bishop. Let me put here queen, q, e, and n. Okay, the reason why some of you might say this is Pawnless Endgame. I mean, why we learn this thing, right? I mean, the reason why I show this thing is that for you to get familiar with the piece. Okay, maybe this position you will not see in your practice, but by training using this, by really learning about this, you sort of like know how each piece, the bishop, the knight, and the queen, how they can move, their characteristic. So that's the main reason why I show this Pawnless Endgame. Okay, so generally in this case, queen win against two bishop. This is the only fortress. This is the only fortress. What you see in front of you, this is the only fortress. But it's more difficult to. I mean, it's not more difficult. I mean, this is fortress, but it is easy for black to go wrong. It's easy for black to go wrong. So if you have queen and your opponent have two bishop, even though you know that this is the fortress, you keep play. Don't just say, we draw lah. You keep playing because in practice, the defender typically have a hard time to find the accurate defense. You are not playing with the computer. You are playing with a human being. So that's why you play even though you know this is a fortress. Okay, you keep playing lah, unless the opponent ask the arbiter and so on lah. But you keep playing because yeah, human make mistake. So why this is fortress? Because for example, let's say now white to move, white go to e7. Why this is fortress is basically because of this bishop c7. Same like a bishop and knight, you are creating the barrier for the king from entering. Remember, in order to win with the queen, you need the help from the king. You cannot checkmate with the queen alone. Okay, you need the help from the king. So that's why this is fortress. You cannot enter. Okay, this is the simplest defense lah. You what we call, you create a barrier against the white king. Okay, okay. Let's say now the king go there. Queen go b2, and then you go to what we call, you go to this thing. Okay, you sorry. You go to king e7. Okay, so when I said that this position, even though it's fortress, you keep playing because it's very easy for what we call for defender to make a mistake. For example, let's say you check here, this going to back here seems like safe, but black king is confined. If you see here, the black king is confined. It's confined and easily fall into zugzwang. When you see your king is trapped, it's not check or whatever, but it's just a trap in a box or whatever. So it's easy for that trapped king to fall into zugzwang, and this is one of the case. We learned about zugzwang before. This is one of the case. It seems like it's safe here. The king is safe here. This thing cannot what we call cannot enter, but because of the zugzwang, you can just sort of like break this thing lah. So how? It's just you just play tempo move. Okay. So because the king is confined, is boxed in, so now you need to move the bishop. Okay, you need to move the bishop. So let's say the bishop move to what we call this thing. Let's say bishop move here, and then you just a pin, and then you go here, and then queen g8, and then king b7, and then queen b3. Let me check first. Okay, let me go here, queen b3, and then okay, you might say why not just check. Okay, when you check like this, you see the fortress is broken, so you cannot just simply check. You can only draw with two bishop if you not allow the king enter. You seem like this is check. This is what normally happen in practice. You just check. But when your opponent know how to play, then he just go into the fortress, and then it's easy to win lah. The fortress is broken now. Okay, so that's why in this case you see the bishop go to back here, because it's still creating the fortress. This is still the fortress. Okay, if let's say black can maintain this position indefinitely, then it's a draw lah. But as I said, in chess you have the obligation to move, so you need to move. Okay, so the white keep playing the what we call the what you call the zugzwang. So here bishop just want to maintain the position, and then you check, and then king b7, and then queen b3. Okay, so here white need to check this. The reason why need to check, need to act quickly, because if not, if let's say white just do anything else, then black will create the fortress again here. Okay, this is the fortress that we learned before. Okay, so that's why in order to win, white need to act very quickly to check, in order to not allow black to what we call to create the fortress lah. So here bishop b6, and then queen b1, and then bishop c6. Okay, here it seems like a fortress, but this is not a fortress because the dark square bishop here is pinned. It seems like a fortress, but it's not, because this is pinned. So that's why the king can go in. Okay, and then bishop g2, and then queen c2. You want to check there, and then bishop f1, then queen S7, king A6, and then queen S1, go there, check, check, and then just win lah. Okay, because the bishop is pinned. Okay, you don't need to know all the detail in terms of where to go. You need to know the idea is that this is the fortress, and if you are white, the idea is that you need to prevent black to erect this fortress. I show what's the mistake just now. So this is the mistake. This is the mistake. Going that is the mistake because the king is boxed. Okay, you don't want this. Okay, what you want to do is you want to make the bishop still agile. So how to play is queen go to A7 lah. So the bishop is still agile. There are no pain whatsoever. Okay, let's say queen go there. Okay, queen B4 just to play like what we call Zatzuang. Just king A6 lah. Just king A6. Okay, you might say that why not here? Why not just play here? You just play here back lah. Fortress again. Okay. Okay, so that's why white need to know how to play also lah. So queen B4, and then king A6, queen C5. Okay, now the queen start to attack the bishop. But you can just king B7. So you can see this is the idea of the fortress. As I said, you don't need to remember every detail where to move. You just need to get the idea because you don't really want to waste your time remembering where to move the queen, where to move the bishop. You just need to know the idea. The idea is that prevent the king from coming near the king lah. So king B7. So you can see this the idea of the fortress. White cannot mate or win with the queen alone. And then let's say the king come in. The king cannot come in anyway. So just bishop B8. Okay, still maintaining the fortress. Okay, you can see here. Because now that this bishop is because this bishop is protected by the king, and the king cannot move, because if the king move then this bishop will fall. So white try to move with the king, but moving the king in order to maintain the fortress, just go back lah. So the fortress still maintain lah, so you cannot enter this thing. Okay, so the king cannot join, and then let's say you king B4, king E7. The reason why king E7, even though you see is quite sort of like weird, right? But it's still maintaining the fortress. The key is that you want to maintain the fortress. That's far more important. Kenapa ke belakang ni? Sekejap. Wait. Okay. Because you want to maintain this diagonal so that this still a fortress. So that's why you just maintain the bishop like that. Okay. And then let's say you check with the queen, and then you just go there. And then king E7, and then you bishop G7, just to, because now remember the king want to go here, then rewrite the fortress again, denying the king entrance, and then queen C5. Okay, and then bishop B8, maintaining the fortress again. Okay, if the king cannot move, then bishop move, and then queen B4, and then go there, go what we call. So here you need to be careful. It seems similar like before, but now here is blunder lah, because remember because the king can go here. Previously, few move before, you can see it's slow lah ni laptop ni. Okay, let me see. Wait. Okay, previously here check, it's okay for the black to go here, to go queen E7. The reason is that the king cannot enter yet. This position, you see that the king is here on the E6, so it's not on this black the red square. If the king is on the red square, the king can go in, breaking the fortress. So this position is okay for the black go to the A7, but the next position, that's why white keep playing because you can see the king want to go here, then do like this here, check. Here you cannot go to the king A7 because the white king go into the fortress lah, so there are no fortress anymore. And then bishop B7, it seems like a fortress, but this is too near with the corner lah, So queen c5, go there, and then go there, just play a waiting move, and then like that, and then check, and then win lah. Because king b4, go there, and then near to, because you are basically entering. So the idea for the white in order to win is just to try to keep trying, so that the king can enter the square where there are no check and so on. So that's the idea you need to keep into the mind, that you need to have like a plan lah. Because if you just check, then you will overstep the 50 move rule. In chess, you have 50 move rule, meaning that if you cannot mat, or you don't move any pawn, or you don't capture anything in 50 move, then the game is draw. Okay, so you need to be always aware about that lah. Okay, so that's why here in this thing, king b4, in order to the way how to the only way to sort of like to maintain the fortress is just to play like this lah. King c7, king c7. Previously here, the king is here, so you can go to king a7, or you can also go king c7. That's okay. But now, where is now? But now, you see, the king is on the e7. So you need to be careful where to go. So here, the only way to draw is to go to king c7. And if you go to the king a7, if you go to the, what we call, king a7, in this case, then the king will enter lah. King will enter, check, and just play check, and then eventually, you sort of like will, the king will break the fortress lah. Will go in the fortress. Okay, so let's see here, king b4, check, and then king c7, and then you go king b3, making what we call tempo move. Normally, when you play, when you are in winning position, the tempo move will sort of like force your opponent to make a decision. Sometimes, most of the time, the defender have hard time to defend the position, and they tend to make a mistake. Okay, so that's why you make a tempo move, just to see what the what we call the opponent will do lah. So bishop a7, the idea is that to want to go to check here lah, and then create the fortress again lah. So that's the idea. You want to check, and then to push the king outside lah, to push the king far away. Okay, so that's why bishop e7, and then king b4, what we call bishop e7, and then go here, preventing the check, but then the king can move lah. The king can move. Okay, the king can move. Okay, so here, even though you allow this, but this is easy because you can just check here lah, check, and then the fortress will be erected again lah. The king cannot enter again. Okay, so queen b4, check, and then king c7, and then king a5, check, and then king b7, that is. Okay, here normally when we are playing as a human, we are typically play this, right? But this is wrong. This is blunder. Because why? Because you have this queen a6, you are basically sort of like prevent the black king to create the fortress. So you sort of like you enter the position where you ni lah. Okay, so you do like this, and then queen c4, bishop c6, and then king e6, transpose to the position lah. This is not a fortress. This is not a fortress because the king is here. So because if the king goes here, the king can enter here, and then you can see this what we call this bishop is shaky lah. So black doesn't have time to check. Okay, so that's why understanding the concept of fortress is important. So king b7, check, go here, bishop b8, check, king c5, bishop e7, king c4, and then still fortress lah. Fortress. Okay, and then go here, and then you get the fortress again lah. So that is basically the fortress for the what we call for this for what we call for this bishop, double bishop. The only fortress is this. That's the only fortress. You need to make sure, the idea is this. You don't need to remember is this the only fortress, and so on. You just try your best to deny the king access to the ni lah, to join the queen. That's the only thing lah you need to do. If you don't know that thing, you will just play in the tournament. You just check, and without any plan. But at least now you have a plan. If you are white, now, you can try play around, check, but with the aim of king going into the fortress. If you are black, then you know the idea how to defend, preventing the king by playing the bishop carefully lah. So as you can see, for defender, it's much more difficult to find a correct move than the attacker, because attacker can play any move, but still it's easy for the attacker lah. But for the defender, you need to defend accurately. That's why you just play lah when you know this is fortress. Still play, because you don't know your opponent will make a mistake or not. So that is basically a bishop lah, bishop. Okay, so we cover that's a queen versus bishop, and now we want to cover another Pawnless Endgame, queen versus two knight lah, So let open. So this queen versus knight here, this typically draw. It's very paradoxical. Meaning that it much easier to draw with two knight against queen than two bishops against queen. Okay, this one of the most paradoxical aspect in queen ending lah. Because if you look here, at the bishop ending that we played before this thing, okay, we see it seems that this bishop putting laterally side by side, creating better fortress, right? But the knight can also do the job well also, and it's much easier for knight to draw than the bishop. As you can see before, bishop versus bishop to bishop, even though like this, is black need to be very careful not to fall into zugzwang and the king can enter. But for the knight here, it's much easier for the defender. It's much easier for the defender to draw with this. Okay. So that's why if people ask you which material balance you can blunder away using queen and yet the position remain draw, this is the position lah, having two knights. Okay, you can blunder your queen, but still the material imbalance generally draw lah. So this having two knight is easier to draw than having two bishop against the queen. Okay, the best defensive arrangement is like this lah. The best defensive arrangement to draw with the two knight against the queen is that the knight, you put the knight laterally, meaning that side by side lateral, and the king, the defending king, must be in between the what we call the enemy king and the knight. The reason is simple, because the king here will prevent this king from what we call from coming nearer lah. As I said that in order to checkmate you cannot checkmate just only with what we call with the queen. You need the help from the king. So that's why the king is easier for the king if the king is in between the king and the knight. Of course, if you put the king at the back also, it still can be draw, but it's much more difficult. It is much more easier to fall into the mistake lah. So go here, put the king in between the knight and your opponent king, and then the draw will be easy lah. So let's see how this virtually this constellation you have, regardless where you put the knight or regardless where you put the queen, this constellation, the king in between the enemy king and the knight guarantee a draw against any arrangement of white pieces. Okay, it's guaranteed the draw lah. So that's why this is easier to draw than having to be sharp. Okay, so let's say white to move, white check. Okay, so king d5. So we are uh, how to play, just king d5, making sure that the what we call the king is in between the knight and the king. The knight itself, if you look here, if I may, if I remove the color, this what we call this thing, let me remove this thing. The knight there, they are already create the barrier. This is a barrier for the knight. Okay, they are basically preventing the king. So the king is safer in this barrier lah. I mean, it much better you put the king in this yellow thing lah. So the king in between the thing. Okay, so now check. Okay, so the safest way to draw is king d5. Okay, this is what normally happen in what we call in practice. Okay, we are tend to sort of like intuitively cover our king rather than moving our king, right? But this is wrong. This is blunder, because now the king just go in, and then because now remember, when you do like this, even though you cover your king, but this knight is pinned. That's the problem. So the knight is sort of like immobile. You don't want the knight. You try your best not to sort of like let your knight being pinned by the queen. Okay. Okay. So let's see how white break this thing. So king c4, king and d5. Sometimes we think that, okay, this is what we call very strong, meaning that the knight cover each other, so you will never lose like this. But the problem with this is that you, even though this cover, the knight cover each other, but remember there are square that is not covered. So the queen can enter, the king can enter. Of course, you might say, okay, the king can enter, but still the queen cannot take the knight because the knight will capture the queen again, so it's draw. But remember, you play zhangzhuang, you play sort of like you try to make the position in such a way that the black king will be pushed away and fall into zhangzhuang. So you will see, so this is the position where typically we think that, okay, the knight cover each other, but let us see how to break this. Okay, so just play like this. Okay, the knight is still pinned, one knight is still pinned. Okay, king d5. Okay, so how to break this? If you don't know how to, the idea how to play, then in your, you might waste a lot of time during the tournament play thinking about how to take the knight. I cannot take the knight because if I take the knight, then the other knight will take again, and then it's draw. So how to sort of like play, how to break this knight covering each other. So let's see how. You check. Okay, you check, and then this, it will lose in like, it's like, for example, 40 move according to that table base. Or we talk about table base later, but the idea is that even though this still win for the queen against the perfect defense, it takes around like 40 move in order to sort of like to win. Okay, to win. Okay, so that's why even though you are having 2 knight or 2 bishop, as a defender you keep playing, because remember in chess you have 50 move rule. Okay, so I will show you very quick how to break this thing. I mean, just show this one. Okay, so king d6, just check, go back, and then go there. You sort of like pin. So the idea is just pin. King b6. Okay, so you cannot do anything. Next, and then you pin, and then nd4. Okay, because you can see here, why the knight move is because why the knight move is because you have this thing. Okay, wait. So I mean, why the knight move? If the knight doesn't move, then you can just sort of like keep going inside. How to move? Can decide. You can just move here. You can move, and then you can go. You can go either here or up, and then you can go here. So you can see the king keep penetrating now. Keep penetrating, and eventually the king will be sort of like detached by with their knight lah. So let's see, I just go very fast here, go here, check, just to show you the idea only lah. So this check, go here, pin, go here, like that, and then check, go here, check, go here, and then go here, check, go here, check. So it takes a lot of time, but the idea is that you just go to the position, just go to the square where the king, the knight, I mean the weak square lah. Just check, go there, check, go inside, and F8, check, go inside, whatever lah. You just do like this. Okay. So as I said, this is not fortress because the king can penetrate here. So you just play until so just go here. Just want to show you how the ending lah, the ending. So you keep pushing the king to the corner. The idea is just pushing the king to the corner like this. Okay, king F3, and then you can see here the knights still protecting each other like before. The knights still protecting each other, but the king, you see the knight here is protecting each other. But if you just left the knight protecting each other, the king, you can move the king for example here, where is here, the knight is protecting each other, but even though the knight is protecting each other, it just prevent white from capturing the knight, but it doesn't prevent white from pushing the king. Remember, protecting each other, the knight protecting each other only prevent the queen from taking the knight, but it doesn't prevent the queen and the king to push the king to the what we call to the edge. Okay, so that's why at the end of the day you can see here, where is it just now? It's still protecting. You can see it's protecting each other, but now the king already in the edge of the thing. So you can see how. Check. Go there. King F7. Okay. Go there. And then you just play Zhuang and then you win lah. So you can see here. Cannot go here because checkmate. Checkmate on the F1, and then yeah. So that's how you sort of like win against two knight. So as you can see, is quite long, but remember in practice you play with a human being. Human being make mistake. Okay, just remember in this queen versus two knight, the idea is simple. The idea is this: even though the knight protect each other, it doesn't prevent the attacker to push the king to the side. Once the king push to the side, even though the knight still protecting each other, you can win by exploiting the Zhuang. Why? How? Just enter. You can see here, enter. So you just pin, and then you sort of like prevent the king from coming out. Okay, and go here, and then you just play Zhuang lah, because cannot the king cannot go here, and then you what we call you cannot go here because checkmate and so on. So that is the basically the idea lah, how to win against the knight if they make a mistake. Okay, so that's why here the best way is to go in between the knight and the king, and that is the best defensive resource lah. So here it's not because you are inviting the pin, and the king will sort of the barrier is broken lah, because the barrier is broken, so the king can enter lah. So you maintain the barrier by moving the king up, and then if let's say you check, and then you just go down like that, and just go inside, and then here of course you cannot maintain the king move because the king cannot move. So here, like it or not, you need to move the knight, but still king F4 and D7 you still make a barrier. So just this is the simplest lah. You create the barrier, putting the king, the knight lateral, and then the king in between. And then if let's say the king want to go, because the king cannot let me put here, let's say this king, this barrier is here from the knight, is this is the knight barrier. So let's say the king now want to go here instead, like this, to break the barrier. So what to do is that you just protect with the king, and then let's say check. Say you just make a barrier other way around lah. Okay, so that's the thing. So you want to check, the king want to go sort of like go here, so just create another barrier by something like this lah. So you just the same barrier but rotated 90 degree. Okay, so black create another defensive setup with 2 knight lateral and the king in between the knight, and then you the white doesn't really make a progress lah. It's just the same thing as before. So that's basically queen versus 2 knights lah. Queen versus 2 knight. Okay, so enough lah for this. As long as you get the idea. Okay, the idea is to make sure your king is in between. Okay, in between, and the knight like this is more better. It give you a defensive. It's a draw. It's easier to draw with 2 knight than draw with 2 bishop. Okay, so I think we're done with this 2 knight. Okay, yes. So let me put here this thing. Okay. Okay. So alamak. Okay. Okay, so now we are going for the queen versus rook. Okay, queen versus rook. Okay, this normally happen in practice. This normally happen in practice because this normally happen in practice lah. This ending is one of the most difficult ending lah. One of the most difficult ending of all ending. It's difficult. It's not because white cannot win. Okay, white have a queen. White, queen and rook. Queen always wins against the rooks unless they are immediate stalemate or capture lah. But by default, if you have queen and your opponent have rook, it's always win. It's always win unless they are immediate stalemate or capture. Okay. The problem is not win or not. The problem is that can you win within a 50 move rule? That's the real problem lah. Okay. If you don't believe me, you try to maybe you can go to what we call let me open the chess. Okay, let me make this thing. Okay, you can go to chess. Okay, and then try to set up lambatnya. Wait, create game. You just tool board editor. Board editor, and then you just basically clear the board, and then you taking the white side, you put this thing, and then you put the king, and then you put the what we call the rook, let's say here, with not immediate check lah, immediate fork lah, with no immediate fork. Okay, no immediate fork, right? Okay, here, and then you try to play against this. You play with the computer, and then go to the highest strength, maybe you can put unlimited, and try yourself to win this within a 50 move rule. Okay, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Okay, make sure lah when you set the position, it's not immediate capture or fork, whatever lah. So like this, they are not immediate capture and fork. So yeah, you can. It's very difficult to sort of like if let's say black know how to play, then it's very difficult for you to sort of like to win this. Okay, okay, you do like this, and then what we call. Okay, let's say you check. You check. Okay, check. You go like that. Okay, you go like this. Okay, so maybe you check. Okay, okay, you go near, go here. Okay, so what I want to show here is that you try yourself to play this endgame see whether you can win within 50 move rule. Okay, because even though it seems like, oh, it's easy and so on, but you need to try yourself lah. There are no substitute that from the practice. You need to play against the chess or whatever good engine, and then try to see whether you can win it in 50 move rule lah. So what I can show you here, let me put here first. Okay, so the key is that you need to know what we call how to win this game lah. Okay, the win is difficult lah if the defender put accurate defense. Okay, but over the board all this might seem irrelevant because in the tournament you are playing against a human being, not a computer or table base. So conducting a defense also hard for the human. So you might argue that what we call there are no need special study for this because mistake by both party, you and your opponent, will cancel each other. However, with the advance of this what we call this computer, table base, and now there are endgame books and so on, it's possible that your opponent study this thing and can put a stubborn defense lah. So it make a little sense for you to play, to just check like just I show you before, just hoping your opponent will allow fork picking up the rook, because having the idea of correct plan will at least give you a direction and purpose to your move. Like I showed you just now, playing in the lead chess just now, I just check. Yeah, it's fun. It seems like you make a progress, but against the good defender, then it's very difficult to break. So get the correct ni lah. So study this thing to sort of like get the idea lah. Okay, so now if white to move, this is what we call the Philidor position. This in front of you is what we call the Philidor position. In order to win against the rook, you as a queen, you try to aim this position. You put the king on the edge as usual. If you want to mate with the queen or with the king in the Pawnless Endgame, you need to put the king on the edge or the corner. Okay, you cannot mate in the middle of the board. So that's why this you need to put like that. This is a Philidor position lah. Okay. If black to move, in this position, is a black in that zone lah, because any move rook, any rook move will lost lah. For example, let's say you go to e7 like this, you can just king d8 check. Okay, so that's doesn't work lah. So you go queen c7, you just eat. Okay, you go d7, you just eat. Okay, you go e7, you just king d8 taking the rook, and then you go to f7, you just check, and then it doesn't really matter where you check. The idea is that now the rook and the king is already separated. So when the king and the rook separated, then it's easy for you to fork, to make a fork lah. Okay, so king e5, and then king e7, and then king e7, king e3, and then king e8, and then you can queen e8 picking the rook. Okay, so that's why you basically doesn't want the rook sort of like move away from the king. If you want to defense, you want to rook to be near with the king. But in this position, let's say black is one need to move, black is the one that is going to move, then this position is that zone lah, because black want to maintain this position indefinitely, but because it's turn, then it cannot move lah. So we see that this is no go, this is no go, this also no go, this also no go, this also no go, and also here is also no go, because you can have check before, like before, f7, you go here check, go here check, you just if you go a6, and then you have seen this constellation, the king facing each other, then you can just make lah, you can just make there. So if you go to the last rank, you can just check like that. If you go to G7 also same thing, just king e5, you have like what we call this thing fork between this thing. So and then the last, if you go to what we call to what to rook f7 like this, you just king e5 check, and then king a7, and eventually you are check here, king b8, and then king b1, so you just fork again. So that's why you don't want the rook and the king separated, you want it's near. So we have seen before that all this thing, all this rook doesn't work, that all this thing doesn't work. So what about the vertical line, the file? What happened if the rook go to the file, let's say go to what we call to rook b6, just eat lah, you just eat, that's no brainer lah. And then you go here, just eat, go b4, you just eat, go b3, you just check, and then king a7, queen d4, you check that, and then king b8, and then queen f4, and then queen a7, queen a4. You don't need to know the very accurate where to check and so on. Just check. If the rook and the king is separated, try to check, and eventually there will be a fork lah. Okay, so like that. It doesn't matter where you check, okay, because when you check, the rook cannot really, help, because the king is near there. Okay, if the rook go there, and then you just fork here and there, just get a fork there, and then if you go down, then you can just queen, you can just check. As I said, it doesn't matter whether you check here or you check here, it doesn't matter, both are winning lah. It doesn't matter because the rook cannot intervene here. Okay, it doesn't matter. But let's say you check at d8, and then king a7, king d4, king b8, and then king h8, okay, and then king a7, and then you can just what we call fork this thing, the what we call the rook and the king. So that's the idea lah. So this is basically what you see just now in front of you is a Philidor position. Let me remove the color. So this is Philidor position. If you are playing white, if you have a queen, you want to force this position. You want to force in such a way that the what we call this constellation is ni lah, is what we call is achieved. Okay, if white, so we see that white can easily win if black is to move. But if white is to move now, then the win is little bit slower lah. Little bit slower because white need to transfer the move to what we call to black by playing just some move lah. So you just check. If white to move, check, and then king a7, and then king a1, and then king b8, and then king a8. So basically you are transferring the move, but now it's black to move lah. It's black to move. So that's how you are basically transfer the move to what we call to your opponent. You are just play here and there, and then if let's say this is Zhang for black, so if white is to move, then you need to transfer the move to black lah. Just check and just play away, and eventually you will sort of like get the move to what we call to black to move lah. The common mistake in practice is that normally when we are playing, if you have a queen, usually if I have a queen, if I don't know this, what I do is I play this thing. I play this thing, queen a6, because we think that okay, the what we call the king, the rook will be, because we want to capture the rook, right? So that's why in practice normally people do like this, but this is quite a mistake lah. It's not really a blunder, it's a mistake only. It just give more loose many move lah, because you can check here, and then you can go here, and then you can just check here. You cannot take because stalemate, and then you need to go there and then go there back. So basically it's still loose, but now white is losing some time. If you are playing if let's say this is move 49, then it's already draw lah, because the knight, the king move, and then the overstep the 50 move rule, and then it's draw by 50 move rule. So this is common mistake lah that happen, that seen in practice. Okay, you rook 7, this you go there, you lose sometime lah. But if you go here, that is blunder lah, because you get this lah, that's draw lah. Because if you take here, you can see the constellation, the what we call, we learned in the previous lesson, the triangle constellation. This is like a draw lah. So that's one of the common mistake that happen in practice. People go there, rook c7, you go 7, and then queen d6, and then rook d7, and then rook e6, and then rook b7. It lose many move lah, problem when you deal with the 50 move rule against a good defender. Okay, so basically this is what we call the Philidor position. We call Philidor position. If you are going to play against the rook, if you have a queen, then you need to aim this position. That's why you see this constellation, you have king near the rook, and then the queen here, and this in the side lah. Okay, so that's basically Philidor position. Let's see this. Okay, so that is the one that we aim for. Okay, view. View. Standard layout. Okay. Okay. So now here, this is what we call the second rank defense. The second rank defense. If you don't know how to play, then it's very difficult to. The idea here is that the white want to push the king, the black king and rook, so that they are reaching this position. This is what we call this Philidor position. So here, they are not yet a Philidor position, but you can force lah. This is what happen most in practice lah. So you need to know how to break this second rank defense. This famously known as a second rank defense. The rook is covering the second rank. So you need to know how to break this. How to break this defense so that you can force black to enter the Philidor position. This is the one that we see before is Philidor position. This queen, let me write here. Queen always win against rook in Pawnless Endgame. Unless there are immediate stalemate or overstep 50 move rule. So this is the what we call the verdict lah. Okay, the problem is the hardest endgame. I mean Pawnless endgame. And the problem is to win within 50 move rule. This is the main problem. So that's why I suggest you try to open the lichess, set the position just like I show just now, and put the stockfish in the highest level of the strength, play unlimited times, and then try to see whether you can check you can win in 50 move rule or not. Okay, it's easier said than do. Okay, you need the real practice lah. I just give the idea only, but the practice you need to do yourself. That's basically the coaching. I mean, this coaching, the lecture like this is not really help much if let's say you don't practice. The lecture like this, the coaching like this is just for you to get like the idea only. But in order to execute the idea, you need to sort of like to practice yourself. Okay, so this is second rank defense. So whatever here, let me put here. This is second rank defense. Second rank defense. What you see just now is second rank defense. This is common happen. Common in practice. Common in practice. So you need to know how to break this defense so that you can reach a Philidor position. Okay, the Philidor position is basically this one lah, the one that I show. Let me remove this first. Wait, no. Wait, no. Wait, wait. Okay, so this is Philidor position, where wherever black goes, then is win lah. Okay, so this Philidor position. So now we are here. So how to force this thing to what we call to get the Philidor position from this position lah. This is kind of a training that you can do yourself lah. I mean, yeah, I mean training in chess, you need to do like a tactic, puzzle and so on. But also this is kind of a training that help you to study the can improve your positional chess lah, because endgame is mostly positional in nature lah. They are tactic, they are sharp endgame, but mostly endgame is positional in nature. So here, when you are putting this setup in the lead chess and try to win with the white, you are basically training far useful training method that way than just watching or reading the book. Okay, because you are doing the thing yourself. Okay, if you want to have more challenge, then you put a timer lah. Put a timer. Can you win this within the 50 move rule and also within the time given? So that is one way to actually practice, actually training to improve in chess lah. Because for me, watching the video or reading the book is good, give you the idea only, but the real training is that you need to feel the heart, feel the what we call the difficulties. It's like you go to the gym. If you go to the gym, if you want to make a muscle, you cannot just go to the gym and just what we call do like this, you the hand only like this, right? You need to have like a dumbbell or something heavy, so you need to put resistance. Only then you can see your hand is become bulky and so on. Only then you can see the what we call the effect of the training. Same like the chess, you need to feel the difficulty, you need to do yourself. Watching going to this coaching online like this just give you the idea only, is not really help in actually improving your chess. The real improvement is when you try to analyze and work yourself lah. Okay, so here, so how to push this into the Philidor position? So okay, you check and then king d8. Okay, you can see now black go to the middle, because black know that he cannot go to the side, to the what we call to the side, to the corner, because if you go to the corner here or to the corner here, then it will be forced into Philidor. But it doesn't mean that white cannot force black to the corner. So you can just need to know how lah. So king c5. Okay, the reason why king c5, I'm actually king c6 also winning. King c6 also winning, but just need to be careful lah, because you have this queen e6 and then you have this thing lah. So just be careful lah. So the reason why the white play king c5 is that to avoid any stalemate trick lah. Okay, but king c6 also winning lah. Just be careful not to fall into because players in tournament players if he or she got a queen, normally he will play like this lah. So be careful lah, don't do like this. This is a blunder lah, because you just what we call get this stalemate lah. So that's why good practice to avoid any stalemate trick and so on lah. Okay, and then king e8. Okay, king e8. Okay, so in this case, as I said, if let's say here, if the rook goes away, separated from the king, when you are having a queen, try to look away to fork this thing, to create a fork. If rook separate itself from the king, made it unable to rejoin again. So okay, I put here. If you have queen against rook, and the rook separated from the king, make sure, try your best to try your best to prevent to prevent them from rejoining again. Okay, this is important because when you have that, then look for fork and so on lah, so you can see now, just for the educative purpose, let's say the rook goes away, okay, goes away from the king, so you need to look away to prevent this from rejoining again. So you can check, what you can do is that you can check here, okay, you can check, and then king e7, let's say go king 7 and then king d5, okay. Here when you put the king here, it's like you shielding the king from any check lah, and then let's say queen e7, if queen e7, okay, if you go to, if the rook start to coming again immediately, then you can just win immediately lah, okay. So that's why you need king and queen to to work each other, okay. So that is immediately lost lah. So let's say the king goes here, king f7, okay, and then you can check here. So here you can see the way how to ni lah. So here you are basically the black king need to go to the e5 lah, because going to the this g5 will allow the fork on this link lah, okay. So if you go to king g7, then you can just fork there lah, fork the rook, okay. So always look for this fork when the rook and the king is separated. So if let's say the king coming in to the e file, and then you can just queen g4, just basically maintaining the position so that the black rook, because when you go here, the reason why you go here is that you maintain the position so that the black rook cannot check the king lah. So you just play a tempo, but you maintain the position so that the black rook doesn't check, okay. So let's say you go king f7, then you can just check king e8, and then you can just king d6, you just whatever lah, and then rook d6, and then king e7, rook e1, king f6, endgame over lah, because the king cannot go to the d file, because of because of this thing, okay. You go there, you can check, and then you get the rook, and then the rook cannot rejoin, because if you rejoin, you get the same thing. You go king, you can just this, and then you can d7, and then you can take the rook, okay. So that's the reason why you don't want your rook to be separated from the king. You don't want the rook being separated from the king. So that's why the king goes there, okay. The king goes there, and then king c8, king f7, and then king d6. So you can see this is sort of like a Philidor, this constellation. This king, queen, and the rook and the king. So this is a typical constellation, black in Zhuang. When you have this constellation, when the king sort of like near the rook, and the queen is here, so basically this put the black sort of like in Zhuang lah. The king cannot move, okay. And any rook move, as we see before, it will be separated from the king, okay. The rook cannot check because just take lah, okay. So if the king separated like this, and then you can just play around, check in such a way that at the end of the day that you will get the the fork, okay. Let's say now here you play like this, king f7, queen c5, king g5. Sometimes this also some of the constellation that you need to know lah. I mean, this is a good technique lah, to sort of like to create the Philidor position, because remember the Philidor position happen when this thing here, and then this king is here, right? So this is basically sort of like creating the nearing the Philidor position lah. and also this king move will release the check, will discover the check lah. So rook g7, king f6, you see nearly and surely that this Philidor position will be reached lah. And then king h8, and then do this again. Okay, do this again, this constellation here, this constellation, and then king g8, and then you get king h5, and then you have this what we call the Philidor position. So basically you can force, you need to know how to break this thing. Just slowly push the king to the side. Okay, push the king to the side. So you see this, push the king to the side, so you are going to this side, but in what we call in you are creating the sort of like semi-Philidor position here. But this, when you have this semi-Philidor position, you are basically putting the black in what we call in Zhuang. So you can see this king cover this square, so that's why the bishop, the rook cannot check. That's why this constellation is important. This, you have this like Y, not Y, but like a Y. You have this and this. Okay, and then you just it's Zhuang, then the rook separated, and then you can just what we call go nearer and nearer, and then you check, and then you can just what we call go this what we call make this constellation, and then you just create this Philidor position, and then you can win lah. So that's basically what we call how to break the second rank defense lah. Second rank defense. The idea is simple. You want to get this position, and if let's say the rook in the middle like this, in the second rank, then you need to force the king so that it reach to the Philidor position. The Philidor position, the one that we learned before, the Philidor position. Okay, control. Okay, so that is Philidor position. This the one that we see at the back here is a Philidor position. Okay, let's go. Okay, so this is the famous third rank defense. What you see in front of you is the famous third rank defense. This remember, you need to remember that queens always wins against the rook. Okay, but whether you win in 50 move rule is the another issue. So what I show here is that basically the position, the defensive setup for black, so that white have the hardest time to win lah, to create the Philidor position lah. Okay, so this is basically the third rank defense. The third rank defense, I mean, of course it's 6 ranks, but for the what black perspective is a third rank. So this third rank defense, so one of the way how you create this third rank defense is basically you put the what we call this rook, your defensive, let's say your defensive, you put in the third rank. So this is black, so the rank number 1, rank number 2, rank number 3, so that's third rank, and you put the king in the middle, so that is third rank defense. Okay, against a competent defender, it is extremely difficult to break this defense. Okay, because it's require at least one counterintuitive move. Okay, this is the position where you can apply the move immediately lah. Okay, but let's say white doesn't know how to play this thing. So what typically people will do is that they just push the king, attacking the rook, and then the rook go to the a6. Okay, rook go to the a6. So you can see the king is denied access to the what we call to the third rank or sixth rank for the white lah. So when the king is far away from the queen, then you cannot make a mat lah. So the idea is that you need to convert the third rank defense to the second rank defense, the one that we show before. And then once you get the second rank defense, you need to move to the corner. You need to push the king to the corner so that you reach the Philidor position lah. So rook a6. Okay, the rook must stay on the third rank lah. Okay, obviously you cannot go to the what we call the king side, because you just check and then take the rook. Okay, so this the only way to stay on the third rank or sixth rank for the white is just is basically just to go to the a6 lah, to the a6. But this is enough lah, this is enough to make things difficult, to maintain the what we call, to maintain the difficulties lah. It doesn't mean that you cannot break the third rank, it just is difficult if you don't know how to break this thing, difficult to for white to break lah. Okay, okay, so let's say check this, the king come and attack, so the what we call, the rook just go to here, so it's enough to maintain the third rank defense lah. And then go here, so like that lah. If what, if let's say the king the check happen and so on, then the king just, if let's say the check here, just king naik atas lah, naik atas and so on. The king cannot enter, still cannot enter yet the third rank defense. So that's the idea lah, the idea of the third rank defense. So I don't want to go in detail lah about this, how the third rank defense is done. Is good for you to study by yourself, but I just to give you the idea. In order to erect the third rank defense, you need to put your rook in the third rank. For example, as a defender, your third rank is here, and the king in the what we call, in the middle. Why in the middle is because is this let's say now why in the middle is because let's say now this is what we see before, is that the king attacking the rook, right? And then the rook go here. What if now, instead of the king attacking the rook, the what we call is the queen making what we call, making a move, so sort of creating a zugzwang. This is where you can use this move, king e8. Okay, you maintain the rook there because the rook must be stay on the third rank. Okay, so this is the reason why you need to put your king in the either two square in the middle, D or E lah, so that you have the tempo here. And then if you go here and then you just go here, I mean the other way, the mirror lah, similar constellation but on the king side. And then king d5, and then rook s6, and then king e5, and then king d8, like that. And then you can just what we call king f5, and then you have, is just like before lah. So the idea, I just give you the idea, but the detail, there are a lot of detail on this, but I just give you the idea. If you want to play the third rank defense, this is the way. You are basically putting the what we call putting the rook on the third rank if you are defensive, and then the king in the middle. Okay, the middle, you maintain the rook in the third rank. So how to break this thing? How to break this third rank defense is you need to play queen f4. This one way to break one of the counterintuitive rule lah. Normally we want to maintain the barrier, right? We want to maintain the barrier so that the king cannot go in, cannot enter, go to the middle, because in order to mate, you need to push the king to the edge and then go to the corner. But if you move, if you remove this barrier, then the king going to what we call, going to be released lah. So intuitively we think that this is wrong lah. We want to maintain the barrier, but this is why I said before, the counterintuitive move is needed in order to break the third rank defense. So that's counterintuitive move is that queen f4, because now the rook doesn't have place to what we call good square on the sixth rank. Okay, so if you go to king c8, then you have king c5, and then rook a6 is forced, and then you have queen e3, and then you can just win lah, and it's over lah. You need to check in detail lah. But by playing queen f4, you cannot the rook really cannot, doesn't have place doesn't have place to what we call to ni lah. If you do like this, I think you have like a check. You can have like sort of like check, and you have check like this lah. You check like this, and then you can ni lah, you can just win the rook. So that's why queen f4. Okay, if you are staying and if the queen stay on the sevens, then you cannot do that. The rook always have time to shift itself. So that's why one of the counterintuitive move in the third rank defense. So that's the ni lah. Okay, so that is the most, this what we call, try to study yourself lah, study yourself, or put the position in lichess and try to win it in 50 move rule. Okay, move rule. Okay, so this you need to practice. This just give the idea. The training just give the idea, but you need to practice. Okay, so basically what we have learned now, we have learned about this. We have learned about queen versus bishop, queen versus knight, queen versus knight bishop, queen versus bb, queen versus knight, queen versus rook. This is the most, I think, if you want to study, this is the most important lah, because this happen in practice. Happen in practice common. Queen versus rook, I think. Okay, so now let's go after the queen. Let's look a little bit about the rook. Let's say rook versus bishop. Rook versus bishop. Okay, let's say this thing. Okay, just give the idea. Okay, rook versus bishop, generally is draw. Okay, generally is draw. Okay, you need to put the idea is that you need to put, if you have bishop, you need to put your bishop, you need to hit into to safe corner. Okay, what I mean by that, okay, when you have a bishop, let's say you are defender, this happen quite frequently also in the practice, in Pawnless Endgame. So you need to put, this is safe corner. The safe corner is basically the corner where the bishop is a different color than the bishop color. For example, this bishop color is the light square. The safe corner is here. This is the dangerous corner. The red one is the dangerous corner, because we have the bishop light square. So the safe corner is the corner where the king can reside on the corner lah, not the bishop. Okay, that's a safe corner. Why this corner? The corner that is opposite color of the bishop lah. The reason is that the king can hide in the corner. For example, let's say now the rook go here, and then bishop go here, and then if you go here, want to eat the bishop, just go back here. Cannot do anything lah, because if rook a7, bishop b3 again lah. Because if you sort of like, you do like this, and then you go back like this, you do like this, you want to pin. The problem now, because this thing, the king is here, then it's a stalemate lah. The bishop cannot move, the king cannot move, it's stalemate. So that's why you need to put you need to be what we call in the safe corner here. The reason why the safe corner is here, because the rook cannot go on the 8th rank, because it will be stalemate. Okay, so they are bishop protecting the king there. Okay, but still need to be careful. For example, let's say the rook maintain on the 7th rank. Need to be careful, because if you play like this, and then you have this, you can win by check first, and then go here, and then you have win lah. You have win the bishop or checkmate lah. So that is the need to be careful lah. Okay, so the reason why okay, this you cannot do the same. You cannot do the same for that, because you have to, even let's say you check, you go here. If you go here, you have check here. You have check there. So that's why you cannot do that for this. So the idea is this. You need to put the bishop, for example, let's say that you need to put the bishop far away. If you put the bishop near, for example like this, you check here, you go here, this is too short. You cannot check here, because you just eat lah. The king can eat. That's why the bishop goes far, so that you can check without getting captured. Okay, so yeah, generally rook versus bishop is draw. Is draw. Okay, so let's see how this in practice happen. Okay, let me check this thing. Okay. Standard layout. Okay. Okay. So this okay. So this is what we call this is the not the what we call not the dangerous corner. This is dangerous corner. So you can see the bishop is in the what we call in the square for this is same color with the bishop. So this what we call dangerous corner. Dangerous corner. So by this is lost this is lost because the bishop the position the corner here the king is sort of like box in the dangerous corner. So for the time being the bishop is under the shadow of the white king. Okay, so the idea to win here is that to push to harass the bishop so that the bishop goes out in the open, and then you can use the what we call the checkmate threat to win the bishop. Okay, so you force the bishop out. You force the bishop out. You go here. The bishop go here, go here, go here, and then rook s1. So basically, now you are forcing the bishop to get away from the shadow of the king, because now the king is shadowing the bishop, right? So the bishop need to go out lah. So for example, if let's say the bishop go to e3 like this, you just go here. You can just checkmate here lah, because you are forcing the checkmate on this thing. So the bishop will be lost lah. Okay, if you bishop d4, you rook d1. Let's say the bishop cover this square from getting checkmate. Let's say the bishop go bishop b6 in order to cover this square from getting checkmate. So just harass the bishop again, and then let's say the bishop still maintain this square, then just harass like this, and then you can just checkmate here. So that's the way how you play against the dangerous corner lah. Okay, so bishop s2, bishop s3, okay, so this and this. Okay, if let's say the bishop go here, and then just what we call, you just rook c1 lah. You just rook c1 to threaten the checkmate lah, and let's say why this is dangerous corner. It's because let's say here, let's say I put here, and then the bishop try to interpose. You check here, and then you go here, and then you can play what we call the tempo move here, because now the king is not on the corner, so the king not stalemate here. The king must move here. So that's why this is dangerous corner lah, because the different than before. In the safe corner, the king cannot have move, but here in the dangerous corner, the king have move. So that's why you cannot win here lah. So let's see, just a few minutes. Give me like another 5 minutes to finish this thing. Okay, so that is the theory. So in what we call in view, let's say this standard layout. Okay, that's the theory. So now in practice is more or less like this. You don't have what we call the bishop. This is more like in practice happen. The bishop is open, the king in the middle, and so on. Let's say you are black here. So how to play this? The easiest way is to make a barrier. So you are making a barrier here. You're making a barrier, and then the what we call the white will try to sort of like push your king to the edge, and then push your king to the dangerous corner. So how to avoid that is that you just do like this, and then you just maintain, and then you make a barrier lah. You make a barrier like this, so that the king cannot what we call cannot enter. And then let's say you check, and then go here. Let's say the king what we call the king enter. You create a barrier again. And you can see the king here, your black king try to heading to this safe corner, the safe corner where the corner that is opposite color of the bishop. So let's say you check, you just go to the safe corner, and then you go inside. Be careful, because the bishop is attacked now. So you just go to make a barrier again, and then you check, go to the safe corner, you go here, and then make a barrier again, you check, and then you are managed to go to the safe corner, and then this is draw as what we learned before lah. So this the practice what happened. This practice, this is what happened. You are putting your you make a barrier and then go to the safe corner. Okay, so that is rook versus bishop. Generally it's draw. Generally it's draw unless the bishop side is forced to dangerous corner. So the safe corner is basically the corner that is opposite of bishop. Okay, I want to finish this with the what we call with the rook versus bishop. Rook versus knight. That's this. I will take another 5 minutes in order to finish this thing. This Pawnless Endgame. So this is what is the rook versus knight. Rook versus knight. Rook versus knight. What is rook versus knight? Rook versus knight. Okay. I want to finish with rook versus knight. Same with the what we call with the rook versus bishop. Rook versus knight is also typically drawn. Typically drawn. So let me put a view standard layout. Okay. So this rook versus knight. So this also generally draw, provided the knight is near the king lah. Meaning that you, in order to draw, you need to make sure the knight must be near with the king lah. Okay. So for example, let's say here we look at this very worst position where the king, the defender king, is already on the side, on the edge. So let's say you want to make let's say what we call the okay. So here the position is draw. The position is draw. The knight and the knight versus rook typically draw so long that the knight and the king is with each other lah. Okay, so you do like this, and then let's say king e3, and then you just check, and then king d3. Okay, so now you cannot go to here anymore. So you cannot go here. The king also cannot go here because you checkmate. So the only way is ng3, and then let's say the rook try to harass the knight, and then this is important. You need to go to near the king again. Going away. Now the knight is separated. This is blunder. So the knight is already separated than the king. Okay, so what you do, the technique that is in order to win this knight is you make a domination game lah. This dominating the knight. So basically this, when you put the rook here, you are basically cover this, what we call this position, this square. The king cover this square for the knight. This rook also cover the square. If the knight go here, then you have what we call the fork, the sort of like the pin, and not the pin, the skewer there, and so on lah. So that's why it's very important knight not to go away from the king. If knight go away the king, what the side with the rook should do is to try to dominate the knight. Okay, go to king g6 to prevent the knight from going to what we call going to there. So let's say now the knight go to h4, trying to going back to the king. Then you can play rook g4 like this, and then sort of like if let's say you are playing like this, then you can just rook e4, and then you dominate the knight again lah. You need that the knight you check, and then the king cannot go here because of the skewer. The king also cannot go here because of what we call, yeah, you can just do this thing lah, because you want to checkmate here. So the idea when you play with the knight is that try to keep the knight near with the knee. So if you do like this, it must go to the near to rejoin with the king again, and then anything that white did will not will not effective lah. So let's say go there and then check, go here, then you can just go to the what we call to the center. It's much more easier to draw king b5 and then king e8. Okay, so this is enough lah to draw with the rook lah. It's much easier lah. It's much easier here in this case. It's much easier for the what we call for the king to go in the center, because going to the center is much harder for the attacker to win in the center. But just to show you, even if you go back here, is also draw. But of course, when you play in the tournament, you just go to the center, then it's much easier to defend lah. Let's say you go back here, just to show you, just go back here, and then you just rook c1 and d1, and then queen a1, and then king e1. Then you just sort of like maintaining the position so that the knight and the king join force each other. So when that happen, then the endgame typically draw lah. So as you can see, the rook versus knight here generally draw, the rook versus bishop generally draw, and that's I think cover our topic today lah about the Pawnless Endgame. Actually there are many more Pawnless Endgame that happen in the what we call in the practice. For example, the rook bishop versus rook and so on. But all in all, the reason why we learn about this Pawnless Endgame is that for you to be familiar with the pieces. Okay, even though in the practice most of you I saw your game in the link, most of you lost in the middle game. That's tactic. We don't cover tactic this time. But even in the end game, most of the end game you will see some pound, right? But we learn here is just to get you familiar with the piece first. Okay, and then in the next session maybe we add a pound. We start from the simple and then go add the pound and so on. Okay, so this at least you need to know a few things. We recap a little bit. So we done with today. We recap a little bit. For today, we learn about the Pawnless Endgame. Pawnless Endgame. So we learn about queen versus bishop is easy win. Okay, queen versus knight is easy win. Queen versus knight bishop typically queen normally win unless you have a great fortress. Okay, and here we learn also about the concept of Zugzwang here. Okay, Zugzwang, where the position that you cannot move, you don't want to move, but you are forced to move. So the way, if you are attacker, the way to exploit the Zugzwang is to make a tempo move. Okay, and then we learn about queen versus bishop, and queen versus knight. Here, to defend against with two knight against the queen is much easier than to defend against two bishop against queen. So, and then we learn about queen versus rook, the one that I bold here, meaning that you need to put a special study for that, because this happen commonly in the practice lah. Okay, if you play with the good player, you and your opponent is same strength, then normally if the game goes to the end game, normally there are time that you will reach this queen versus rook end game. So you need to know how to win lah. If let's say your opponent is very good or study this end game, that is very hard for you to break the defense and to win in 50 move rule. For those of you who don't know about 50 move rule, please Google around lah. Is a rule lah. And then we learn about the second rank defense here. For the defender, it's still winnable. Queen still win, but it make life difficult for the attacker lah. And then we learn about this third rank defense. Still, the queen win against the rook, but it make life more difficult to the attacker. And then we learn about rook versus bishop. Okay, generally rook versus bishop and rook versus knight. Generally, for the bishop versus rook, you need to put the bishop in the safe corner. For the knight, you need to make sure the knight and the king not so far, not separated lah. Okay, if it's separated, then it's easy for the rook to sort of like dominate the knight. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I'll take a 12-minute extra because I want to finish this Pawnless Endgame in the let me remove this thing. Okay, so I want to, because the reason why I take this is because we want to finish this Pawnless Endgame. After this, we want to go with the Pawn Endgame and so on lah. So we start with the basic first, and not basic, I mean that this is more like you need to know whether with this piece you can win or not. that is important first, to know whether you can win or not. Then only then we add the pound slowly, and then we see how this goes lah. Okay, so I think that's it for today.